Hey, what do you say to everybody? Mr. Sette. Coming back to you today from the Sette compound, small office where I do most of my studying, handicapping, and video replay watching. Let's recap the Travers and some of the significance of Travers Stakes Day, a couple of the races on the undercard, and so on. First things first, the one horse that broke my heart on Travers Day was Prince of Monaco. That was in a race prior to the Travers. I had lots connected with him to win. The pick five in particular, because I only used two horses in the Travers. You know who they were. They were Torpedo Anna and Fierceness. We're going to get into that. But I had a successful day. It could have been a titanically successful day if things worked out for me with Prince of Monaco. But predominantly, I wanted to recap the Travers and speak to you about how I approached the race all in all as a handicapper, and so much I shared with you guys on the show, the Saratoga Saturday show with Big Race Jim and John regarding the Travers Stakes with a deep dive. And if you want to go back to that, please do. You can get all the details I shared, which I'll sort of reinforce here. But, you know, so you have a better understanding. If you didn't watch that show, I will share everything that I did share and how so much of it was precisely how things happened. And I say that with proudness because I work feverishly with extended hours in my craft. I think when you outwork people, you perform at a higher level and you're that much more prepared. And I leave no stones unturned. So the Travers was an 8-horse field. Let's start with the 4 horses who I completely eliminated and why. All right. And I said this again. I'm not just saying it here on my channel. You can go back to Pastor Wire TV, revisit the full Saratoga Saturday Travers Day special card, and you'll hear everything I had to say about each of the entries. Each of the horses entered in this big race, okay? And a race that had a significant amount of intrigue and anticipation. And, you know, as I opened up with a little segment regarding class, because class is what class does. And that's the foundation of a big race, okay? There are many contributing factors, but you have to consider class along with performance and all those other contributing factors, which I'll get into now. All right, so the bottom horses, why did I short them? And I'm going to repeat some of the stuff I said on my show for you guys watching today. Let's start off with the 3, Unmatched Wisdom, all right? And I was very clear and concise about this horse. I said he was talented. I said his figures aren't bad. And I felt because he began his career in May of this year, it was an extremely unlikely scenario that that horse could compete in this race. And I was very much correct because obviously he finished up the track. He had nothing left in the final quarter, maybe even the final half mile. It was never a threat. Unmatched Wisdom, I did respect Irad, the fact that he was on him. But when you consider the 2 races he came out of and his 3 races as a whole, I wasn't impressed entirely with his maiden win and his allowance win. I thought it was an inferior group. He did run well in the Crow, and I emphasize the fact that he beat Corporate Power, who I thought was a developing horse. But one of the things you take away with that horse is never dismiss the fact that a horse needs to be seasoned or have more of the current 3-year-old campaign to even be considered a threat in a race like this. And it just showed. It just showed, and I was happy to say he was one of the ones I shorted. Next horse I shorted was Corporate Power. That was Shug's horse with Castellano up. Now, Castellano had a lot of success in this race. And unlike Unmatched Wisdom, Corporate Power was a 3-year-old who did not run as a juvenile and began his career early in the year, in January. So he had some more races that you could say he's developing and positioning himself to compete in a race like this at best. And I said, you know what? He's still in over his head. And if anything, he could be a late closing, maybe late closing fourth. Maybe. But still, my focus was on, in this race entirely, it was a 4-horse race between the 4 horses that were clearly the class and the Grade 1 winners in the race. And remember, coming into the race, Torpedo Anna had 3 Grade 1s. Fierceness had 2. Dornock had 2. And Sierra Leone had that 1, and he failed several times. The 4th horse I shorted in this race, never considered, was Anna Marie. And I said, some people were intrigued with the fact that the horse was coming in off a layoff. I did not like, as much respect I have for Whit Beckman, I did not like the fact that he was going with blinkers at this stage of his campaign. He should have put blinkers on after the Kentucky Derby run. But I thought he was too slow. And I thought if you were going to take any horse to be the defined threat as a closer, it would have to be Sierra Leone. Again. So my race day started with eliminating those 4 guys. All right? Now let's go to the 4 contenders and ultimately how I was decisive in handicapping the race. And you guys know, and I'll start with this, I was entirely torn between Torpedo Anna and Fierceness. Now, ultimately, on the show, for you viewers, I had to be decisive. So I wanted to see history. I wanted the filly to be the filly to win the Travers, first time in over 100 years. But you know what? On race day, I did not make a win bet because in my blood and bones, I felt this race was going to be won by either Torpedo Anna or Fierceness. And I made that very, very clear on my show. Now, there are a lot of handicappers out there who I have lots of respect for, and I listen to their opinions. But I couldn't find any that took this Travers and were decisive in saying that the best horses in a race, the top 2 contenders, the 2 horses that'll be there at the very end will be Torpedo Anna and Fierceness. So I take a lot of pride in being the handicapper who was decisive on that. So anyway, Torpedo Anna, I talked about, not only was she facing the boys, but I felt how she won her races were so decisive, so much superior, making the other fillies inferior. Her workouts, the way she was training altogether coming into this race, her campaign, the fact that the connections mostly generated through Ken McPeak, the connections bypassed the Alabama, where she would have just been a layup at 1-5 or 1-9 to run against the boys in this race. That was very telling. That's beyond ambitiously placed because the Alabama is a Grade 1 $600,000 race. But coming into the race, and I said this on the show, go back to the show, review. I said that BJ Hernandez will break alertly. I specifically shared which horses I felt would be on the other lead, predominantly Dornock and Batten Down, that's exactly what happened. I said Fierceness would be sitting second, most likely third, to the outside of Torpedo Anna, and Torpedo Anna would be sitting fourth. Like I said, as a handicap, we take pride in how we paint the picture, how we envision a race unfolding. That's exactly what happened. I also said on the show that Fierceness would take the lead coming into the stretch. That's exactly what Fierceness did. Now, one of the things that so many folks in the industry, it was bothering me when I kept listening to it. You know, they kept making comments about how Fierceness was going to just fold under the covers or not even compete in this 1.25 mile event, on again, off again, on again. And they dismissed one of the most important factors that I brought to the attention on the show. They dismissed the fact that this is the second time, it was his second race off a layoff. The first time off a layoff, his second race, he won the Florida Derby by the length of the stretch, and he ran a 110 buyer. So keep that in mind when we get to Fierceness. So anyway, I had Torpedo Anna as the horse that would make a big, powerful run and make a run at Fierceness. And Fierceness only after Fierceness took the lead. And that was exactly what happened. We just finished ahead 8 inches, 9 inches, give or take an inch short. But what a run she made. And the entire final 8th was owned by Fierceness and Torpedo Anna. All you have to do is watch the race. The next contender of the 4 was Sierra Leone. And one of the things I said about Sierra Leone, okay, got to be logical. I loved her pedigree. I love the fact that she was a very expensive purchase. I like the fact that Pratt has been, making the horse, at least him riding the horse, he's behaved a little differently. He hasn't lugged in as much, even though he still had the propensity to lug in. But I said there's shown improvement, and a lot has to do with his gaining an experience. But I did say, and this was very important, you go back to the show. Anything I say on this show, on my own channel, just go back to the Saratoga Saturday show, and you'll know what I'm talking about, because I know what I shared. I said that Sierra Leone, will make a run in a stretch, because that's what he does, and he was a Grade 1 winner. However, he came up short several times, literally the last 3 times. He came up short in the Kentucky Derby, he came up short in the Belmont, he came up short in the Jim Dandy. And the Belmont was at the same distance, at 1.25 miles over the same track. So everybody thought, across the board, all the guys on Fox, everywhere you went, that Fierceness was it was an 8-horse field, he got more distance, and he was just going to make his run and not come up short and run him down. But most of those handicappers and people dismissed the fact that Fierceness and Torpedo Anna were superior horses who have demonstrated to be very fast and who, at their best, you knew they would be full of run in the stretch. Now, Torpedo Anna never had to fight before because she was so decisively better over all the fillies she faced. But studying film review, watching her behavior, watching how strong her acceleration was, you knew, at least I knew, that she'd be there, guts, digging down deep in the stretch. I felt that she had to catch Fierceness. That's exactly what unfolded. She came 8-9 inches short from catching Fierceness. So Sierra Leone, on my show, I said would run 3rd. Folks, he ran 3rd. Let's go to the other contender before we finish with the winner, Fierceness. Dornoch. I said Dornoch is a gritty, gutty, tough horse. Horse that, when he got eyeballed, wouldn't want to give up the lead. I like those things. Great attributes. Trusted Luis Saez. And I said I was up close and personal to everybody, all the connections at the Haskell. However, in this race, I felt that Dornoch, because of his amazing run in the Haskell and his amazing run in the Belmont, the fact that he had to really dig down deep, I thought going 1.25 miles again against this field. Remember, every race is different. And my colleagues on the Past the Wire TV, this is one thing we all agreed on, that Dornoch, even though he'd be up there early, and he's most likely the last one because he's a two-time Grade 1 winner, he would finish for a share, last for a share. So I didn't say he was going to be 8th or 7th, but I did say he was going to be 4th, clearly. I felt Fierceness and Torpedo. Fierceness would have the lead in the stretch. Torpedo Anna would be trying to run him down. Sierra Leone would be a late closing 3rd, but not have enough, come up short again. And Dornoch would, because of his class, would last for 4th. So I never used Dornoch in any tickets other than on my bottom of my superfecta. Not even in my triple. I felt like he was the perfect horse to run 4th. I say this with proudness, and he ran 4th. Now let's go to the eventual win of Fierceness. Now, again, go back to the show. I spoke so much about, and I elaborated. And for you folks that don't care for me elaborating, that's your choice. You know what? But I'm giving you pearls, all right? I challenge you to find anybody that puts as much time and is more dedicated to his handicap than I am, especially when it comes to, race review, and really, really spending countless hours, a very arduous process on big races. Can't always be right, but when the race unfolds precisely as I saw it to be, a painting, if you will, I say it with proudness that it makes me really feel good. And those that followed me and those who believed in my principles, they got paid, all right? They got paid handsomely just a week earlier in the Alabama with the Phillies, power squeeze, cold exacta, cold triple, and they got paid handsomely in this race. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. On the show, I said, my top choice was Torpedo Anna, but I did not make a win bet, all right? Because I was torn between Torpedo Anna and Fierceness, okay? I really felt it was going to be the gal and Fierceness deep in the stretch. What happens within the final 16th is, could go either way. I used only those two in my multiples, my pick 3, my pick 4, my pick 5. I lost my pick 5 because Prince of Monaco, who's my single, it ripped my heart out because it was a lot of money that should have been collected that wasn't. But back to Fierceness, all right? One of the things I highlighted on my show that everybody and their sister's cousin was dismissing is that Fierceness, the first time he had his second race off a layoff, he won the Florida Derby by 13 lengths and ran a 110. I told everybody this was his second race off a layoff again. Dismissing this on again, off again, that's a bunch of bullshit. I'll tell you why. The only race that he ran out of gas was the magnitude of the Kentucky Derby, all right? Where he broke well, was right there to the top of the stretch with Track Phantom, and he folded. But those other races, which many people are saying are down races, I implore you, go watch the races. Go watch the juvenile race in the Champagne and see what happens that race. Go ahead. Odds on, all right? Horrible start, lunged at the start, then rushed up, passing horses effortlessly. But that effort and being wide, he was used up. He was a juvenile. And then in the Holy Bull, another one of the down races, just watch the race, all right? Pinball start, squeezed, had to go wide. There was absolutely no pace. Domestic product was in the race, which, was impactful in the race too. It was his first race off a layoff. And more importantly, Hades, the horse that won, that horse tanked. You haven't even heard from him. I think the horse is 0 for 5 since then. Obviously, the layoff And the fact that he had a horrible start. And that day, it was disappointing because I had him in my multiples and he was 1-5 and he didn't get the job done. But when you review Fierceness's race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile of the Florida Derby, he ran like the wind blows, Forrest Gump style, all right? And everything that made up Fierceness's body of work, all right, coming into the race, he ran 7 times. He had 4 wins. He had 3, we'll call it 4 wins in spectacular wow style, if you count his maiden debut at Saratoga. He was 2 for 2 at Saratoga, which I spoke about on the show. And in fact, I said on the show, the 2 horses who are 2 for 2 at Saratoga. And they are Torpedo Anna and Fierceness. So I didn't listen to any of the chatter out there or the derogatory statements downplaying Fierceness, and I stuck to the task at hand. Now, you know what I did on race day? Because I did not make a win bet because I couldn't. From a win angle, I couldn't go against Fierceness, and I couldn't go against who I made my top choice, Torpedo Anna. But the exacta, folks, paid $56. Do some math. For you $200 exacta players, if you took a $200 exacta and went both ways, because you couldn't tear them apart if you were torn, that's a $400 wager, and you collected 5,600 clams. 5,600. Additionally, because they were my top 2, now sure, I should have hit the pick 5, I did not. I used only them 2. I should have hit the pick 4, which paid $627 on a dollar, but I did not because I lost with Prince Monaco. Prince Monaco was a major disappointment to me. It's part of the game. He was in the lead, deep in the stretch, and he got caught, ironically, by my second choice. So was I thinking I should have went too deep in that? If I go too deep in that race, Mr. Sette hits everything. I have the pick 5 multiple times. I have the pick 4 multiple times. I would have had that exacta more than I did. I did have a comeback on that exacta, to be honest with you, because I felt like Prince Monaco's only threat was domestic product, and I was so invested with Prince Monaco on the winning, win bet, multiples, and so on. But listen, we make window decisions. But as a handicapper, and I'm one that shares my craft with you people, I do it openly for the love of the game. And I'm using this channel as my new channel I put together this year for updates and this, that, and the other thing. But most of my work is done on Past the Wire TV. Now, so I'm proud. I'm one of the few, if any, handicappers out there, public handicappers, that were decisive on Torpedo Anna and Fierceness as a 2. When I was watching Fox that day, I couldn't believe, even on Fox, everybody across the board had Sierra Leone. They just took for granted. Oh, he's getting 1.25 miles. He's going to make his run. And Fierceness isn't any good. He's going to regress because he goes up and down. And Torpedo Anna's the filly, and she beat inferior competition. And that was like the consensus. But you know what? My eyes saw something totally different. So I had blinkers on, or blinders. That wasn't going to sway me. I stuck to my task at hand on what I saw with my eyes and how I handicapped the race. So like I said, if you need to verify or confirm any of this, just go back to the Saratoga Saturday show. It's all there. In my heart, I was really torn. As a thoroughbred racing enthusiast, I wanted to see the filly because I was so amazingly impressed by her entire body of work leading into this Travers to face it. I wanted to see history made. But no doubt. That's why I didn't have a win bet. I felt it was Fierceness or Torpedo Anna. In fact, I said Fierceness on the show. Fierceness would be sitting third. He will take the lead as they enter the stretch. This is what I painted, what I envisioned. Fierceness was third. He did take the lead coming into the stretch. He led throughout the stretch. The only thing I said is that Torpedo Anna would run him down. And she came 9 inches short. part of the game. Congratulations to Pletcher and Mike Rapoli. I even said on the show, Rapoli, Italian guy from Queens. I know he wanted the race. Again, there was also other talk. I knew they were considering the Pennsylvania Derby, but they would not risk this horse's health if he wasn't conditioned and ready to run in the Travers. He proved every, and I just got the number. He ran a 111 in the Travers with Torpedo Anna, and that's what she ran. So to his credit, he's got a 105 buyer in a Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Santa Anita. He's got a 110 buyer in the Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park. He's got a 103 buyer at Saratoga in the Jim Dandy, and now a 111. Folks, Fierceness right now is your 3-year-old champion, the best 3-year-old in the country until proven otherwise. And Torpedo Anna is second. And you can even make an argument for her being number 1 because she has been flawless. Torpedo Anna is now 6 for 8 with 2 seconds, and she ran her best number. And she faced the boys. The only advantage she had, because she was a filly, she carried 5 pounds less. So I just had to get some time in to share with you guys this morning, and congratulations to Fierceness. I proudly say I am one that never listened to all that BS and chatter and people claiming he's not a fighter. It's just a good feeling when your eyes and the horse's performance proves people wrong. Fierceness is not only has a flair for the dynamic, speed rating wise, arguably the 4 best races you could find on paper for any 3-year-old. Not arguably, actually it's a fact. But what he demonstrated in his last 2 races in the Jim Dandy, and in this Travers, absolutely ridiculous. So going forward, still got a few months to the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think they're going to hold them off, lay them off until that day. Of course, every race needs to be evaluated differently. I will say one thing about Sierra Leone and Dornoch. Dornoch, it was just a matter of him. You can't be so defiantly game and dig down deep 3 races in a row and expect to win all 3. And I had shared on the show that as much as I admire Dornoch, his connections, Luis Saez, and his physicality, Dornoch, coming into this race, was looking to achieve something that's only been done once in history by point given, and that's to win the Belmont Stakes, the Haskell, and the Travers. So, along with what I saw with my own eyes, that I didn't feel, look, and like I say, he showed what class is about because he still lasted for 4th. It was just too much to ask. So, I thought it'd be a little fun to recap the day. Like I said, I made money. I had my heart ripped out of me because of what Prince of Monaco cost me, but it's part of the game. And you know what? I wish I could have been, like on the show when I said, yeah, my top choice is Torpedo Anna, fight to the wire with Fierceness. I wanted to see history. But, as the day unfolded, I knew I couldn't make a win bet against either one of them. I already had everybody else shorted. I knew Sierra Leone was going to run but come up short again. And I knew everybody else was outclassed with the exception of Dornoch. But Dornoch, it was too much to ask because of what he'd done in the previous 2 races. All right, so I will see you on Past the Wire TV. This channel is just beginning. If you haven't liked or subscribed, do so, because during the racing year, I'll come here and maybe put some plays out there or put some updates or sharing conversation like I'm doing now. You know, keep punching. Focus to the finish. There'll be some good shows coming up even prior to the Breeders' Cup on Past the Wire TV. I promise you. Those have been in my corner. I'm hoping that you are reaping the benefits and knowing that you're in my corner and you're knowing I'm putting a very, very high level, intense effort in terms of breaking down these races. And it's whether it's an allowance race or a maiden special or a grade 1. It's what I do. I work hard at it. I take a lot of pride in it. And going forward, we hope to achieve lots more success. All right? So I'm going to let you go. I got to make a nice Sette omelet. I got a busy day ahead of me. Going to hit the gym. You guys stay well. I'll see you on the next show. Love you. Keep punching. Keep fighting. Focus to the finish.